either probably Microsoft or our business had sort of probably a meaningful discussion with the AFL. So good that we were able to have this roundtable today. It's really wanting this to be sort of an open discussion. Obviously, it's been a pretty challenging year. I think the AFL has obviously done a fantastic job to run the season, and as a Richmond fan, I'm pretty happy with the outcome. So that's a great start. I think for us, it's been a really interesting year as well. Probably two things that have happened this year that those on the call might not be sort of fully familiar with. Is the work that we've been doing with Microsoft globally. So we are now recognised as the leading sports sort of partner globally across this vertical, and it's allowed us, I guess, to have a lot of access into sort of the engineering teams. Obviously, we've got Emily on the line today, and she'll sort of talk about the US market. And it's allowed us to expand there. And I guess the stroke of luck we had was being able to have our first client on the ground as the Clippers, and particularly to meet Charles. And I think you'll see today that Charles is someone who's got the ability to really understand business strategy and drive technology, pretty quickly to deliver that. You to have that insight today, just about how it's worked for the Clippers, and as I said, really want to make sure that we've got a whole range of questions, and it's an open discussion. So what I'm going to do in a minute is just ask Charles and then Emily just to provide some commentary as an overview and an introduction, and then we'll open it up sort of for questions. If you have got questions as we go through, please feel free to ask. I think that if COVID's proven anything, it's really that fan engagement is really critical, and connection is really not it's a ticket to the game, not the prize. And really what we want to talk about and demonstrate today is just how we've used data and insights to really drive what the Clippers are doing, and how they've used that across both their team and also venues and the NBA itself. So with your indulgence, I'll introduce Charles. Charles is the head of technology for the LA Clippers, to perhaps provide an overview, and then, as I say, if there's any questions along the way, please feel free to jump in, and there'll be plenty of Q&A, and we'll look to finish right on time at 10:45, so that we respect everybody's time. So, Charles, with that, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ned. As Ned said, my name is Charles Sims, head of technology over here at LA Clippers. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I've slowly become indoctrinated in the Australian way of life, trying to figure out some of these sayings that you guys have that we definitely don't use here in the US, like cradle to grave, as far as a fan that is cradle to grave, which is interesting. But as I'm explaining kind of what my team does and what I'm really focused on, there's two parts to it. It's going to be a lot of that old school IT of what people are thinking with making sure computers are working, servers on, we're always up, the different nines, this, that, and the other. But then as we've delved into tech enablement of the fan, it's been extraordinarily important to really build this team around us and these tools around us that are all around fan journey, and that the custom personalization for our fans, in that every single time that we're interacting with them in a way that they want to be interacted with. We're interacting with them in a way that is unique to that single transaction, whether it is, hey, you're somebody who doesn't want us to text you, and you only want us to call you. You only want us to reach out via the app or anything like that. A lot of those different ways is what my team is slowly building this ecosystem alongside EngageRM to really personalize this pipeline of interaction. In about, I guess it was 8 months now, we've completely overhauled our entire CRM with EngageRM and built a lot of this stuff from the ground up. In the past, it's all been these bespoke. We had one solution for email automation. We had another solution for texting. We had another solution for how we get surveys, and like all these different pieces that were never really well integrated with one another, then integrated onto another platform. And it was just this kind of app on an app architecture that really had all of our departments struggling. So when I say we have our normal IT guys that are doing the service side, this is very, very different. This truly is the fan enablement through technology. Right now we're in the middle of a lot of that unified data layer. How do we unify these applications outside of just what we're doing within CRM, our data warehousing projects, what we're doing with our customer data platform, the customer experience platform, and pulling all those pieces together. And as we've built out this strategy, as we've built out this framework, we keep coming back to CRM is our central. CRM is our tool to sell. CRM is our tool to interact with our customers. All these other ancillary data tools, all these other ancillary, I guess, frameworks are there, but fed directly from that CRM itself. I don't want to spend a ton of time today just talking through all the cool stuff that we do, because I don't think that's necessarily what you guys want to hear as much as it is. I am here to answer any questions of how we got from our old systems to this, any thoughts I have of how American sports is really changing as way as fan data goes, how we do in-game engagements with fans, and what a lot of teams kind of struggle with. Because I think one of the things that I've learned as Engage and I have gone through this, I guess, transformation for our own data, as we talk to more and more teams around the league, what we realize is what we think is very, very basic infrastructure, what we think is very basic functionality is mind-blowing to others. But as soon as we get outside of the sports realm, we're back to that's just basic functionality. And so one of the unique things that as I've answered questions or I've talked to others, it's our focus should be how are some other leagues doing it, but how are some of the best of breed businesses doing it? How are the large businesses looking at data architecture? How are large businesses interacting with customers? Because they seem to have a much better grip on it. And that's where I think in the last 6 months has been a lot of our focus is don't just look at everybody that is like us in the NBA, look outside that and really try to own a lot of those best practices from there.
Thanks, Charles. That's a good overview, and we might just come back in terms of sort of questions. Maybe to you, Emily, just to provide just a little bit of background and overview, from your perspective.
Yeah, sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right. I'm having some connection issues, so it seems that I'm either all in with video or all in with audio, and I can't access both. So forgive me. But nice to meet everyone. Emily Hallinan. I'm a business application specialist here at Microsoft for Dynamics 365 customer engagement solutions and the Power Platform. And I'm focused specifically on media, entertainment, and professional sports accounts. So kind of what Charles was saying about, looking at technology in the sports world, not just what are other teams or leagues doing, but what are other businesses doing. I work with media and entertainment accounts, but then also a dedicated account team and other specialists like myself to support the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and the MLS at both a league and a club level. And our team, we have some folks who are 100% on the sports side, and then some folks like myself who do pure media and entertainment as well as sports. And it has really allowed us to bring in those best practices from outside of just the sports world. And, as a company, I think we've worked pretty hard over the past 4 to 5 years to build up this team and this kind of sports practice because we've recognized the opportunity for growth and innovation within professional sports and how Microsoft can support that with our end-to-end platform. So we've essentially centralized our approach, and we have this dedicated team that works directly with sports customers. And we really carved out professional sports as a subset within our media and entertainment industry team. Just this fiscal year, we've even added a new worldwide sports focused resource within media and entertainment, who's kind of leading the charge across the world. And it's given us access to really unprecedented resources like the Accelerator team, which was essentially Microsoft product and engineering folks who wanted to extend our own Dynamics and Power Platform for an industry-specific scenario within media and entertainment. So I worked alongside the EngageRM folks and the Clip scenario and thinking about what would that look like for sports? How could the platform be used to drive fan engagement? Kind of something that that Charles touched on. And now it's something that any league or any club across the world can go out and grab on AppSource and start using today. So we've had conversations very specific to, ticketing and sponsorship within sports, but we're also starting to talk about more advanced workloads with, customer data platform and fan segmentation and outreach and personalization and recommendation engines and conversational intelligence and sort of, how we can work together to utilize all these different aspects of Microsoft tech to really start to connect and modernize the fan experience. Because we're, as Microsoft, bringing the platform, and then our partners and customers are able to then iterate on it in a low and no code way that really allows for that rapid deployment that Charles mentioned. Just over the past 6 months, this kind of stuff that they've been able to do is really exciting, and especially in like a post-COVID world and whatever that's going to look like, the ability to spin up applications based on different use cases, whether it's like contact tracing or reentry to the building for fans, ultimately, we hope, but even just employees and vendors and managing all of that behind the scenes. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. And it's been a great time to be able to support from a Microsoft perspective, because we're really bought in and have like I said, a number of resources and a number of different points of access to engineering in our product group and corporate in a way that we really haven't before.
Okay, thanks, Emily. So maybe over to you, Rob. I assume there's sort of, you've got, maybe some questions or others in your team, and really, I guess, would like to use the session here to sort of maybe dive into some of the challenges that you might have. There's obviously a whole range of ways we could go on this, but maybe just wanted to hand the floor to you to maybe provide some perspective and any questions.
Well, I might be the worst to do that, Ned. I've only been here for 4 weeks now, so it's just kind of the end of my 4th week. Yes, coming up to the end of my 4th week, and so I am still trying to wrap my arms around a whole variety of things, one of which is what we do around CRM and what we do around better fan engagement. So I'd love to be the person that gives you the answer to that, Ned. I'm not sure that I am. I think what it's fair to say, and I'll maybe just give a synopsis of kind of my very initial thinking around kind of where we are. It's fair to say, I think, that historically we have absolutely the greatest intent of knowing the most information as possible around our fans and people that want to engage with us. I don't think we've got the technology systems to support that in place today, and that's why we're having these conversations. But we are also very early on that journey, in that we are still working through a whole variety of what are not just the kind of tooling that we need, but what are the processes and people we need to underpin that. And so we are very early on the journey, which I know that you guys know, but I want to share that very clearly. We've got quite a lot of data and not a ton of information because it's all kind of locked up in legacy systems. We are working through how we best take that to a point where we're able to deliver the type of fan experiences that we want. But again, very early on that. And I don't have a ton of questions as a result of that. I was kind of hoping to hear a bit more around what you guys could do and what it's capable of, so it could prompt me to think more about that, rather than me kind of talk about what our challenges are. But I think one of the big challenges is lots of data and not tons of information that we can then use to drive better fan experiences. And then maybe if others from AFL want to weigh in on that, because they've been around a bit longer than me.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. Maybe as a start, just to kick off the conversation, maybe to you, Charles, about that specific question, but also it would be good to provide context about how the Clippers operate with, 2 venues, another one being built, the interaction with the NBA, how the league and the team works together, and just some of the initiatives around that. That'll hopefully help Rob and the team to get a deeper understanding.
Absolutely. And just for my edification, we have both league side and AFL league side, as well as some of the teams on here as well, right?
No, just the AFL, Charles.
Oh, just AFL.
Just the league.
All right. So for the Clippers, we have the team itself. We just purchased the Forum, which is the second highest grossing venue in the U.S. Out here in LA. We're building a new arena. And then we still play outside of our old arena at the Staples Center here in Los Angeles. Over the last 4.5 years I've been here, our biggest struggle is getting data from the right systems, because whether it's getting data from POS, getting data from the app systems in Arena, get from F&B, from any of the operational data, because we're a tenant, right? We don't own those systems, so we can't just say, hey, just flip it out to Venuetize, do Appetize, or do one of those type of platforms. And a lot of that data, even if we did get it, would be pivots upon pivots of reports. So trying to back that out to the raw data was always really difficult. And then we went to the idea of, okay, well, whatever data we can get, let's build out that data warehouse. Let's start ingesting and standardizing how we're bringing that data in a way that it might not be perfect, but we can start adding value to it. Then working with our ticketing partner. In the past, they had a dump that we would get off of an S3 bucket every night. Okay, how do we start working that relationship with AXS, which is our version of Ticketmaster? I think you guys have like Ticket Tech out there. So like start working with that, and these bits and pieces were at one point it's an FTP dump, or I guess S3 bucket dump, and then starting to build out that data infrastructure within the data warehouse. Now hook that into Dynamics 365, and that's where a lot of Engage tooling came in. Is we wanted to start out with something that was the base of all of our stuff. Data warehousing is great, but it's not a production style system in the way that you want to be building other applications off of it. You want that to be your legacy, your report. It has a lot of it's your data lake, has a lot of the highly transactional, as much crap as you can put into it, but doesn't always make sense yet. Then we have our highly relationship style data, which is our CDS, which is the backend of Dynamics 365. That means these are people we know. These are our customers. We might not know everything about them, and they might have some data out in their data warehouse. And let's at least start with that common profile and bring those pieces in. And then we started deploying the piece with our customer data platform. So that is our hooks into our social media websites, our hooks into our regular websites, forums, how people were interacting with us, and adding some telemetry data in there. Those are now attributes that originally go to a data warehouse, but once we can make them from unknown to known, those are now part of our CRM. So that's why when I was saying like the CRM is kind of that central hub, and wherever you guys are at in your stage, obviously I'm not advising you on one way or the other. I'm just talking about like how we got there. CRM really is how we started that. You could have 1,000 of these bespoke style systems outside of it, but where do we make money? We make money from sales. Where should sales be? It should be in your CRM. And if you start there and start moving out, whether you're on a Salesforce or Dynamics or HubSpot or anything, like really owning and solidifying that architecture is a lot more important than just putting shiny balls on top of shiny balls on top of shiny balls. When I first got at the Clippers, what our salespeople love to do is they go to conferences and they come back and say, hey, here's the 4 new products that we need to implement, and we already signed 3-year contracts on all of them. So trying to pull those back was always the difficult part, because now it's like, crap, now I have to figure out a way to get that to integrate with this. Well, it doesn't. That's tech debt that I can't fix just because it's already been signed. So getting the buy-in from the senior leadership team, and then the buy-in from the sales leadership team alone on, look, CRM that's our cash king. That is what is going to be the most valuable piece to us. And then if we just do the basic stuff there first and keep iterating, it gets better. And that was 2 years ago. Now, a year ago is when we said we need to actually do a real CRM, and we got to get off of the old platform we were at, worked with Engage. And now in the last couple months, we have such a solid base that we're building on. Now we're talking about like things like conversational analytics. We're able to look and listen to the conversations that our salespeople are having with fans and understand how far off of our sales scripts are they going? What type of sentiment are they getting from these people? And are we able to dynamically place what tickets we should be pushing them on, rather than just saying, hey, let me feel it out as a salesperson? Because what we want to do is we want to minimize headcount by maximizing the tech enablement of those people. I don't want to ever have to hire 50 new salespeople because we signed 2 of the biggest free agents in the NBA's history. What I want to do is have those same 5 guys that are badasses at sales and just throw as much tools at them that makes their life a lot easier. And we're able to do that during this whole period because of what we've done with Engage. And it's that nice 80% solid foundation that Microsoft has that you can now integrate with it, rather than having all these siloed solutions outside of it. So obviously that was a lot of talking, but I think the point of what I'm trying to get at is if you guys are just going on this journey right now and you're trying to figure out, CRM is going to be your main location to really centralize around. Your data warehouse is, in my recommendation, that becomes your junk drawer, your future case. We're going to just start putting stuff there as we figure out that relationship, and then bring it into CRM. And then your CDP is going to be a lot of that transactional style transactions, but like the thousands of times somebody comes to your website, the links that they click on, the Facebook posts that they put on, a lot of that stuff. And so I'll stop there and see if that sparks anything or any questions.
Thanks, Charles. Just quickly, I just wanted to introduce Matt Dehon from as the AFL account manager. I didn't introduce you, Matt, at the start, so my apologies for that. Just joining us on the call today as well. So thanks, Charles. That's a good overview. I'm just wondering if there's other questions from the floor from others within the AFL about, for Charles or Emily or Matt, just on what we've talked about. I've certainly got a couple of other questions, but I'm keen to hear from anyone who might want to sort of go down a particular path.
Rob, you looked like you were going to ask something before Ned interrupted.
Yeah, I was. That's okay. I also wanted to give an opportunity for the other AFL people to ask the questions. Well, I think my a comment and a question. It sounds easy, right? Like it sounds like you've just put it in and it's all fine. I guess I'm sure it wasn't. I've done these before as well. I guess just for me to understand a bit better, integrating those large different disparate types of data is challenging, and challenging to bring that back to a single persona or a single person, so that you know that it's not just somebody like Rob Pickering that bought 10 beers, it's Rob Pickering that bought 10 beers. And so, you know, how do the Clippers bring that data back to, you know, kind of what looks like hyper personalization around an individual person? Or do you not do that, or is that where you're going to? So yeah, how do you take those disparate data and try and bring them back into a central I guess source of truth for an individual person?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different pieces that we really started going deep on. Like one of them was going to be the data attribution and attribute enhancement. So how do we take Rob Pickering? I think I know his cell phone number and potentially his where his address is. Now let's push that and see what other information. Okay, so now I actually know he worked at CBus before this. He was a CTO. These are the different things about him. Here's his income level. Here's his like all of these different type of mosaic style things, and those are going to influence how we would potentially utilize you as a lead. But that's when you're a lead. That's not necessarily when you're one of our customers. When you're one of our customers, the unification of the data across those, that comes from the data warehouse first, when it's very disparate and we don't have a good hook to then get into the CRM. For example, in the past with our email automation tool, we use Marketo. Marketo is the email automation tool that really requires heavy setup and a decent email team to continue to manage it. And we had 2 people for the last 3 years that we've had it. So it's crap. Like the amount of clarity that there was in that entire database was really bad. But we had bits and pieces, and so bring that out of the all of those interactions into the data warehouse itself, then mapping those against the potential contacts, and then our data science team was trying to figure out what are the best ways to correlate this data when we don't have a good like source of truth at that point. Moving forward, we have an amazing source of truth because we have the Dynamics 365 backend alongside the customer data platform, because the customer data platform is basically a direct sync to our CRM right now that has to have those integration with those third parties, the social media listeners or the ticket sites or anything like that. Then the next piece would be the in-game or in-arena type of technologies, your POS. How do I tie somebody who just bought 6 hot dogs back to Rob Pickering? Well, it's really difficult if you don't have digital tickets. It's really difficult if you don't have any of those type of digital personas. And in IT, we talked that digital identity and modern identity is the first key to really owning your security of your entire platform. It's kind of very similar in IT within tech within the arena world. Is you can't just have all of this fluttering data and these systems that are putting crap data in and hope that you can figure out a way to connect them back up. It is breaking them back down to their original sources and then trying to rebuild out those pipelines in a more efficient way, or a better identifiable way, which is you need a digital wallet at some point to do tickets. You need some sort of loyalty program to tie back to F&B and in-game engagement. You need some way to really be able to track phone calls or texts or any of that. And for us, it was for any communication, it has to go through the CRM. For anything in-game, we have to be utilizing the digital wallet and the digital ticketing for that.
Charles, there's a question from Joe, who's head of commercial partnerships and experiences with the AFL just in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see it, but have you worked? So you can see the question there.
Yeah. So have you worked with any of your partner sponsors to assist in the data acquisition and build that? We have telco and banking partners who could lean into when is the best time to engage with them on this journey. So earlier is the better. In the US, your partners, like, data is king, and it's very difficult to get them to want to share data with you. It's just you sharing data with them. So Verizon is a partner of ours, and they have amazing data as far as who's in our arena, what type of what type of people are coming in and out. Even if they don't have a digital wallet, you could technically authenticate them back that way. We don't have access to that in this arena. In our new arena, what we are going to do is our partnership, our quote unquote potential partnership with AT&T, is that will be the authentication layer. So your cell phone is going to be your ticket for everything. You're not going to have to be able to take your cell phone out of your wallet. You're not going to have to scan any of that. It's going to be all done through that AT&T authentication layer that pulls up that way. So if you're able to get things like that, and it takes that one less step to be able to do POS or any of those types of transactions, that's great. If you're talking about lead attribution mapping or additional lead enrichment, that's amazing. Like that's the goal of those telcos have so much information about the people that are already in your CRM, people that might be unidentified already in your data warehouse. If you can lean in on that now and pull that into this, that would be huge. We don't really get that in the US, so that might be different. And then I think, Joe, is that the answer to your question? Please type it. Perfect.
Yeah,
all right.
perfect.
One other thing I would go into that we had that we with the Engage team really built out in the US. There's partnerships and sponsorships for the team itself and how we manage those, how we build deals, how we create the asset registers and all that different stuff. And it's very unique in the US of how deep and convoluted it gets and how it hooks back into finance, how the reporting happens to NBA. And I think that I'm very, very proud with what Engage has been able to build, because there's been no other CRM or ERP or anything that has really good sports partnerships module that can do a lot of that housekeeping, the stuff that is usually held in Excel sheets to make sure that the mascot with the right hat ran across the field at the right time. IPTV is pulling the right assets for Qualcomm in the fourth quarter or whatever it is. So a lot of that stuff, as far as not just the contract negotiation, the activation itself, we were very, very happy with what Engage was able to do.
Charles, it was just, I think there was someone, I think David, you might have had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, David Elliott, AFL, Charles. Couple of questions. One, you discussed the challenges when you don't own, you're still a hire at Staples, so there's other third parties, that are not contracted to you guys. I guess in here talking to you as the AFL, and you're a team. So we're still got about, not only do we have that issue and challenge, we're then sort of representing the 18 clubs here as well. So extensively, how do you, and is there the need? It's a very different US market to our market, but how do you have to play that back? And is the NBA doing anything that's providing any efficiencies and scale, and from a shared services point of view? First question.
So historically, NBA has been a take. Like, give us your data, tell us your rate cards, what's doing this, like, tell us everything. And only in the last probably year or two that, as I've been negotiating with them, we're talking about building the overarching data platform that would allow us to share data with the NBA that could then get anonymously shared out amongst all the teams, so we have an understanding of like market type of competitiveness. But they don't get our data, right? They get that masked version of it. And then even the same thing with us to NBA. We need a lot of data from the NBA that's helping us out. And I don't want it in a PDF that I can't do anything with. I need that data to give to my data scientists. I needed that data to create analysis and figure out what we should be doing. Should we be raising ticket prices because COVID is absolutely ravaging this market, but not really doing it for Boston? So if Boston comes out and plays with us, are we going to be able to actually get decent ticket? Like, there's a lot of that data that's extraordinarily important. And in the past, with that take mentality, there was nothing we could get back from them. And so with Microsoft's partnership with NBA, they've committed to doing a multi-tenant shared identity without owning the identity, which is huge. That's massive. So that means if I'm developing an app, as I'm trying to do, so with our new arena, I'm developing an entire platform that would allow you to integrate absolutely any type of IoT into what we're doing with the app. So I can turn on the suites HVAC, you can control the TVs, all that fun stuff. But to the point where the suite's going to open and it's going to go, the HVAC is going to have been turned on to the temperature that you had it the last time your phone was in there. Now that app will have the shared identity that can hook up into the NBA. So if I go into Boston and they have that same system, it goes right through. To give them identities without having to federate, and that it's the idea of going away from these really clunky old server client systems into more of that API style. And that's what we're, at least at the Clippers, what we're really trying to do is get into this easy data enriched environment that is not just a bunch of databases that are disparate and crappy products and just really clunky, right?
Yeah. No, I think that'd be something certainly more for us, in these conversations, because they do get, so my second question sort of relates to that, in the sense of, you mentioned a few of those commercial revenue, ultimately out of this, it's about, what's the growth and what's the revenue opportunities. And we as the league, it's have all those same third party situations with our venues. Obviously we now own Marvel, so it's a little bit different, albeit the venue takes, significantly the bulk of the catering revenues and the F&B rights and other rights, and the hirers get, a very small percentage, and the hirer being our clubs. Yeah. So you sort of take those stadium revenues out of it, and really the club has, their daily ticket revenue, some membership sales, sponsorship sales aren't really driven from the stadiums as an asset, particularly in Melbourne, because they don't get a lot of airtime at those venues. Yeah. So where do you see the other commercial opportunities?
So I think a lot of the things, let me just quickly touch on, as the league, it is your job to make the most amount of money collectively for all of the teams, right? It's not for you to own it all, and it's not for one team to actually blow it out. It's for you to create a framework that is truly helping, and it's synergistic with the teams itself, right? That is where we are trying to get the NBA to a point where whatever we're doing should be standardized in a way that everybody gets to take a value of it, because the better that the whole league is, the more money we're going to get, period. And if you guys have that mentality, and if you can convince teams, which I know is difficult, to like own into that mentality, I think you have a really good opportunity to do some cool stuff because you're the league. Now to your second part, other commercialization opportunities. Virtual fan experiences are going to be huge, not just because of COVID. And this is the reason why I'm saying this is for Orlando, when we were doing the playoffs and there was no fans on site, and we're doing these virtual fan experiences similar to what we're having right now. Pretend we're all watching the game, but I can talk to you guys. Like, we can chat. We can. It's almost like your own personalized group that's watching it together, watching your own personalized feed. Now take that to the extreme where it's like you can have your boys because you can't break away from your family to go watch this game or something like that. But maybe if you can just watch the game from home, you can hang out, talk, and have that like mini community. I think that's where you're going to see it. You're going to see it a lot more, because once you split that up and these people aren't necessarily in the arena itself, the assets for sponsorship are endless. Absolutely endless, and super customizable and segmentable. So you can say these 40 people that are all in their own room, we're going to give them a completely different pre-roll. We're going to give them 4 or 5 different sponsorship assets that are going to them, because now from our customer data platform, we know who's in there, right? We know exactly who's in there, what they're interested in. Maybe we have even 3 or 4 feeds, customized feeds that are going to them, like different cameras or something like that. We're starting to learn more and more about what they enjoy, how they're talking, and even transcription of the chats. You can figure out a lot of information that way. So I think virtual fans are going to be extremely important, even once everybody can go back to these games. Because all it does is expand your fans past your normal doors, and allows you to go and hang out and have a really unique experience with when your team is 1,000, or I don't know how big Australia is, 200 kilometers away, and that's what's, I think, is going to be really important, just because the segmentation, hyper personalization is really there. After I said that like 10 times, but yeah.
David, anything else from you?
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate that.
Charles, just I'm wondering if there's any other questions that anyone has on the AFL side. I know I saw a couple of people were starting to type something, but not sure if there's questions.
So let me ask you actually a couple of questions, just so I know. Who owns your guys' streaming rights right now? Who's OTT rights for AFL or the individual teams?
You talk through our broadcast, right? Well, we've got Telstra in the digital space. That's all mobile.
Telstra.
Okay.
And then Foxtel is our pay solution, and then we have a free-to-air partner as well in Channel 7.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you're doing a virtual fan experience, it would have to be on Telstra's metal, and they would be building it alongside you, right?
Likely, yes.
All right. Who owns and so like all the broadcast rights for when you guys are doing ads right now, is that team based or is that AFL based? Sorry, league based.
No, that's largely, yeah, it's more so from a league perspective back with broadcasters, albeit, you know, teams have various deals and arrangements as well with their partners.
Yeah, there's
a bit of both in that.
Yeah, there's a really unique opportunity right now, as we've seen everybody during this COVID time really latch onto OTTs, the over-the-top platforms, where they're going to want to stream much more. At least in the US, they're going to want to stream much more. And as you want to grow your fan base to a younger demographic, you have to have a really powerful thing. And it's no longer just the game. Like, you need the game, you need stats, you need some interactive parts of it where I don't know if betting is allowed out there. That's becoming a really large thing. Is how do you allow real-time betting? Well, now you need to have something that it has latency to the point that would be appropriate for betting to be able to happen. How do you integrate that into fantasy football? If you guys have a 5G partner, are you able to bring that in for the low latency, hyper, almost real time, there's no delay game type of pieces in there? Like, I think over the top is going to be a really unique place that you can find not just partners, but like how you redefine the consumption of the product itself.
There's another one more question, I think, here, Charles, just around challenges, surprises of sort of implementing stuff during COVID and how that looks.
So the way that we were introduced to the EngageRM team in February, is that right, Brett?
Yep.
So we were introduced to them in February. Back when we still didn't know exactly what we were gonna do. They came out into the US for 3 days, and it was three days that we really went through my entire vision of what I think, and Brett's telling me how they've done an EngageRM, and like marrying like the US way of how you do ticket sales and sponsorship towards how they've really done over the past 10 years. And then they left. And so with those 3 days, we got a lot of work done, but then we had to deploy this thing in less than 3 months after that. So everything else was remote. So one of the unique, I was pleasantly surprised with Engage is how well they do with remote collaboration, remote work. We did immense amount of functionality updating and really rebuilding the standard way of this sports platform while we were 10,000 miles away from one another.
Yeah, and maybe the return to just on code, just probably the extension of that, Charles, just around getting how do you get getting onto the field of play with COVID, and just the solution around that, just briefly before we finish up.
Yeah. So returning to play with COVID, are we talking about Orlando, Ned?
Yeah, sure. Just how you did it, and just I guess your own experience. What you guys did, and how the league did it, and just how you made that happen in a short space of time.
Yeah. So the overall the return to play was really focused on we got to get content out there. We got to figure out a way to. Just mute somebody. Got to figure out a way to get really valuable content as soon as we can to these fans. And so you had your normal broadcast that you could watch on your TVs, but then we created our own virtual fan experience that was built completely in Teams itself. That we would let our fans come, and we had a full produced show similar to what you'd have in arena. So we had things like Kiss Cam, like we had challenges, name that artist, and made that interaction really unique. And so out of those 500 people that would attend this every single game, those were new leads that were then getting pushed into the EngageRM system, and we were able to add a lot of attributes from those experience itself into the CRM, and we were closing deposits after going through this entire thing. We were closing deposits 75% faster in people who had experienced that experience than just anybody off the street. So I think that was something that we realized when you got to make lemonade with what you got, and for us it was specifically around utilize this content that you get, and let's try to have that drive deposits for next year.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Rob, I'm just conscious of time. We're sort of right on the limit. I'm sort of want to be respectful of time. I'm sort of keen for people to stay on, and there's probably plenty to talk about. But I just, I guess, just in terms of before we do that, maybe just for those that do have to go, maybe just in terms of next steps, there's a couple of things that I guess would be interesting. One of them, Emily alluded before to the global sort of leadership in this area. And Vic Wowo is the worldwide sport and live experience lead, who couldn't be on this call, but has sort of said to us a couple of times that he'd be really keen to have a sort of a follow-up discussion on this. So that would be one thing, if you're open to that, to sort of setting up a call in that regard. And then I guess probably the other thing, depending on how you're feeling on sort of what the next step should be, would be, I imagine also there's a number of people that sort of haven't seen the solution itself on the call, given that it's been a while, and wondering if we might sort of coordinate, a demo or series of demos or discussions, perhaps, again, not sure if that's through you, Rob, or through someone else on the call.
I think certainly for me, who hasn't seen the platform, it would be good to see, and I'm happy to have others come along to that. I wasn't here during the initial presentation process, so I'm yet to see it. So I'd be really open to doing that with an invite to people on this call, and we can see if we want to expand that further inside of the AFL for people that might not have had a chance to see it. I think a number of people on this call would have, but I didn't, so I'm happy to attend that. That's probably a good next step.
Yeah. Okay. And any other sort of any other sort of questions or comments? Are there particular things? I mean, obviously we'll sort of follow up from this, but are there things that perhaps we haven't covered, or any commentary, or just insights, I guess, from your perspective on what we've spoken about?
Nothing really from me. As I said, I'm kind of pretty new to this insofar as sort of coming in 4 weeks in. So it was good just to hear kind of the context of the way the Clippers use this tool. I think some things that would prompt some questions for me is getting deeper into the tool and sort of understanding a bit more about what it does. I'm hearing kind of the themes around what Charles and the team can make it do on their side, but yeah, kind of what it starts off as, how we evolve it over time. They're conversations I'm keen to get into and have a conversation about, but I probably need to see more of it for me to prompt those questions.
Yeah,
Even
sure.
I'm coming in without even seeing the platform, it's a bit difficult. So
yeah, nothing like sort of being put on the spot, Rob. So so look, we'll finish up there. Again, just want to respect everybody's time. Thanks very much for joining, everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity to sort of try and just discuss where you're at and what some of the some potential solutions might be. I know, thanks to you, Emily. Emily's currently in Florida, and there's a storm about to hit, surprisingly enough, for Florida. So she's been able to make it through. And obviously to the Australian sort of contingent, Matt, and also Fiona and others from the Microsoft team. Thanks for joining. And obviously to you, Charles. Really appreciate you sort of giving your insights. And again, Rob, appreciate you being so willing to have everybody on the call today, and we'll follow up accordingly. And good luck. And as I said, it's been I think next year's going to be a fascinating year, and we look forward to the next steps. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for arranging that, and thanks Charles for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, all right. Cheers.
Bye, guys. Bye, Rob. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.